Welcome back to round two of the Greensboro Pokemon Regional Championship here in Greensboro, North Carolina. I am your host, Jeffrey Saran, and to my left,
is John Kalachexis Kettler with Rowlet, special guest star.
Rahul to the party, coming in here with this nice little matchup we got going on right now. But going on to round one, we did see Archie's Blastoise take the win against that Gallade Eradicate GX deck. Unfortunately, couldn't keep up the par with the Archie's deck there. But well, you got a chance to walk around the floor. What kind of different decks did you see around the tables?
I gotta say, it looks substantially different from Toronto, which was the exact same format just a week ago. We're seeing some of the popular decks from last week come back. We're seeing Archie's Blastoise make a splash, and we've also got some newer decks too. I mean, we saw the change to Connor's deck last round, but as far as bigger tournament-wide changes that I've noticed, one thing that I've seen is a lot more Garbodor. So Garbodor-based decks using Trashalanche, using Ability Shut Off, and we've seen variations of that where there's been a return with Seismitoad EX, Quaking Punch Item Lock, and in addition to that, there have been some pretty interesting variations of Garbodor with Sigilyph GX.
Interesting.
Yeah, and in addition to that, we've also seen a resurgence of Grass-type decks, so Venusaur and Celebi GX making a return to. It was there in Toronto too, but it just never had a chance to be on stream.
And it looks like our players are going on the way right now, so we'll go a quick, brief introduction to the two decks we have. Both of these decks, we did not see any of them or the likes of it in Toronto. We have the Dupe Snack Special to the left, Sean Kelley bringing in Wailord Mill deck, and on the right side, Rahul Reddy with Celebi Venusaur GX.
That's right. So both of these decks are a little bit slower. They operate differently than a lot of what you might have seen in Expanded so far. So in Expanded, you'll typically see very setup-oriented decks like Zoroark GX, Trevenant, and such, where they're trying to evolve multiple Pokemon and have swarms of attackers out in play, or rush attack decks like Night March would try to get as much damage on the board as quickly as possible. These two decks, they try to make it a little bit slower. With Sean Kelley's deck to the left, that Wailord deck, even though you can't see the Wailord yet, it's a lot slower. It tries to deny its opponent of energy, and looking at Rahul's list, he only runs 12 energy cards total, and a lot of them are special energy. Sean's deck, he has a lot of special energy hate, so this might be a little bit harder for Rahul than you would normally think, because a lot of Sean's Pokemon are grass weak, and Rahul's running a grass deck, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't have any energy to attack with.
Yeah, this is really interesting here because, Sean does run grass weak decks here, but if Rahul can't even get the energy there, and Celebi Venusaur, really, really heavy energy cost attack there. I mean, the first attack is grass, colorless. The second one and the GX attack are both double grass, double colorless energy there. So, it's going to be pretty hard to get to those numbers there. However, both of them are stout HP Pokemon there. So it's really, I feel like Rahul maybe is shifting his strategy from taking these KOs to let's see who's going to deck out who first.
Yeah, and with that, Sean runs 2 copies of Team Rocket's Handiwork. Supporter card that lets you flip 2 coins. For each heads, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Remember, in Pokemon, if you cannot draw any cards in your deck because you have no cards left, then you lose the game. So I think in that regard, Sean probably has a little bit of an upper hand here, but it could possibly work in Rahul's favor if the right cards are dealt out in the right order.
All right, so we do see Sean did play Steven's Resolve, and it has benched a Hoopa from Shining Legends there. Doesn't allow any EX GX Pokemon to attack it due to that ability. But then back to Rahul's turn, he plays his own Steven's Resolve here, and I didn't get to quite see what cards he grabbed there, but both players are kind of looking at the long game here.
Right, and I like that Sean's getting his Pokemon in play that are effectively going to be able to avoid getting damaged or really deal with any problems at all with the Celebi and Venusaur GX. We've got Hoopa with its safeguard, with its ability being able to block any effects of attacks, including damage done to it by Pokemon GX or EX.
Team Rocket's Handiwork looks like he got one heads there, discarding a Celebi Venusaur GX and a double colorless energy here. And Rahul taking the initiative here, attaching a grass energy. Looks like it's from the Generation set too. Just want to do that little plug as well. And a Fighting Fury Belt coming down on the Celebi Venusaur GX. Oh my gosh, 310 HP. 310 HP.
That's right, one of the beefiest Pokemon in the whole game right now with that Fighting Fury Belt. Now, by the way, I like what Rahul's doing here to try to avoid the energy denial, because looking at Sean's list, and if you have a decent amount of knowledge about these Wailord decks, you would know that usually they run multiple copies of a card called Team Flare Grunt. Supporter card, pretty straightforward. Discards 1 energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, and that's the key there, the active Pokemon. So by attaching that basic grass energy to the Celebi Venusaur, he is avoiding the Team Flare Grunt from being able to discard that energy. So the only way in Sean's list that he could discard that is with Plumeria. Another supporter card, similar effect to Team Flare Grunt, but if you discard 2 cards from your hand, you can discard any energy card attached to any of your opponent's Pokemon.
One thing to note here as well, looking at Rahul's list, I do not see any type of energy recovery in his list. I don't see a Super Rod, energy, retrieval, anything along those lines there to bring those energies back. So once those 6 grass are gone, they're gone for good.
Yeah, but one sneaky thing that Rahul might be able to pull off at just the right moment is a single copy of the Ace-Spec card, Scramble Switch. You can only run a single Ace-Spec card in your deck. It's only legal in the expanded format, so these are some pretty old cards we're working with, but it lets you switch one of your Pokemon with your active Pokemon, move the energy to the new active Pokemon. So what Rahul could do is he could spread his energy around a bit and hit Sean with a surprise attack.
We do see a pass here into Sean's turn. We do see one of those Team Flare Grunts you were just mentioning there, a Verse Seeker as well. Probably going to see another Plumeria play here. Yep. Verse Seeker for the Plumeria.
Yep.
See a Counter Catcher. What else is in there? Flare Grunt. Fighting Fury Belt. And a Max Potion.
Which is funny because the Max Potion should be helpful in certain points in this series, but to be honest, it won't make as big of a difference as it would in other matchups. One, because if Rahul is getting knockouts, they'll more likely than not be one-shot knockouts. And the other thing is, Sean's just really banking on that energy to now. That's the most important thing for him by far.
Yeah, we're at the point now Rahul is actually able to did have 2 energies down right now. Sean was not able to remove one of those as well. He's holding on to what looks like to be a Flare Grunt and an Enhanced Hammer in his hand right now. So if Rahul could still keep on the gas here, he has DCE in hand. I wonder if he's going to go ahead and take the initiative and attack, or is he going to hold off and wait till he gets more basic grass energy?
I like the strategy that he seems to be applying right now, which is to just hold off for a little while until he's completely set up. Now, Rahul might not know exactly what's in Sean's list right now, and Sean has a couple options to exploit that because Rahul has multiple Pokemon in play, not just that Celebi Venusaur. He could actually, at some point later in the game, bring up one of those Shaman. Its only utility in this matchup is either to hit non-GX Pokemon, like that Hoopa, hit Pokemon that block damage dealt to it by EX and GXs, but those are liabilities for Rahul right now because Sean runs a single copy of Snorlax Plasma from Plasma Storm with its ability block, making it so that the active Pokemon just can't retreat. So if he's able to bring up one of those Pokemon, if Sean's able to bring one of them up, then it's just going to be stuck.
Yeah, we do see there Rahul did attach DCE right there, and it was able, and then right there on cue, Sean had the Enhanced Hammer to get rid of it as well. Rahul coming back with the net ball of his own, able to search for his deck for a basic grass Pokemon or basic grass energy and put it in his hand, and right away attach that grass to the Celebi Venusaur.
And I like what he's doing. He's still committing to his strategy, trying to load as much energy on that Celebi Venusaur as possible. He only runs 12 copies of all energy combined in his deck, so it's going to be a bit of pressure, but as long as you stay committed to what you're doing, then it's going to go reasonably well. And so he's bringing up that Celebi Venusaur. He's got just enough, and he's using his GX attack. So we have an Evergreen GX coming down, healing all damage.
Oh, yeah, so heal all damage. And sorry, I cut you off.
No,
there.
go on.
I was excited about that.
This is the time to get excited.
Yeah, because he had the 1 extra grass there, so he's able to heal all damage, and then because of the extra grass there, shuffle his discard pile to his deck. So those energies that were just Plumeria'd away went right back to his deck.
So that GX attack is its own energy recovery, and it's a great application in this matchup for sure because the whole concept behind Sean's deck is energy denial, locking, blocking, keeping Pokemon from being able to retreat, and Rahul was like, nope, I'm just going to go ahead and get my energy back.
If he had a way to switch this Venusaur out of the way, he could pull out Scramble Switch play and attack with the Shaman.
I really want there to be a Scramble Switch play that wins the game. Not going to lie. Although the problem with Rahul's list in being able to do that is he only runs these Shamans as non-GX attack. Those are his only non-GX attackers he can possibly use. And I gotta be real with you guys. Shaman's not dealing a whole lot of damage. It's dealing Ram for 30 without a Fighting Fury Belt, and with one, it's dealing 40. So.
Yeah, so 40 at least they could 3-shot this Hoopa, but I mean, between energy denial and I'm sure max potions and shenanigans on Sean's side, probably not gonna. It's gonna be a long hill to climb.
Oh yeah, and so then we get back to what we were talking about earlier, which is who's going to deck out first, and what's Rahul going to be able to do to try to counter that. But luckily, with these Stevens plays right now, being able to search his deck, set up additional cards for additional turns, he theoretically could chain a great play here where he just starts attacking with the Shaman over and over again, and then he could just bring up another Shaman if he needs to.
Okay. So we do see Steam Resolve here. We don't search your deck for any 3 cards, but then as the side effect there, your turn ends. Going into Sean's turn right now, just a Hoopa and Fighting Fury Belt. He does have a Tropical Beach, which also Rahul could take advantage of as well. Stadiums work both sides of the field. And, yeah, I didn't see what all was in his hand now, but it looks like he's eyeing down another Plumeria play.
Yeah, and same thing. I like just committing to the same play over and over again. Don't lose confidence in what your deck is meant to do. Sean already identifies that Little Shaman is the only threat to his Hoopa right now. So he's just saying, you know what, I got to go ahead and get energy off of it. Got to go ahead and get those basics back in the discard, deny him of everything I can, and win the game the way that Wailord is meant to win it, which is mill the opponent.
So on to Rahul's turn. We see a Field Blower there. Get rid of the Tropical Beach and the Fighting Fury Belt on the active right there. And it looks like there is 2 energy
and
on.
The discard is hurting here.
Yeah, AZ, while it does bring the Pokemon to hand, the energies and all cards attached to it do go to the discard pile
right.
there.
Yeah, there's some cards in both Standard and Expanded that would let you bring that Pokemon back with all of its energy, but not AZ. So right now, Rahul took a big hit to bring that Shaman up.
Another Flare Grunt came to Sean right there. It looks like that might be his last Grass Energy in deck. Hold on.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, like, he does not run that many copies. He only runs 6.
No, I think that's it. It looks like he has, what, so DCE, and
2 DCs.
And 1 grass on
yep.
the Shaman right here. He's all in on this this adorable landform Shaman coming in, hitting him hard with the ram.
Hitting him for big damage. You know what? That's why Shaman grew up with that Fighting Fury Belt.
N. Perfect. So the Flare Gun goes away now off this N.
Unfortunately, it's an N into 6. So while Rahul's playing to his outs, trying to do what he can with what he's dealt as far as this matchup goes, Sean still has pretty good odds to be able to just shake all that energy off again.
There are a lot of cards in his deck, though, so he could miss these different cards like the Max Potion, the Flare Grunt. So we'll see what happens here.
Oh, yeah, and if Rahul catches him with a single turn with no bench Pokemon, the game's over. And we're looking at his hand. It looks like there's...
I just see Plumeria.
I don't see
any heal.
A potion, yeah.
I don't see any heal. So if Rahul has another energy in
but
hand,
there is the Enhanced Hammer, so that's one of the 3 cards that Sean would need to get rid of.
But he's not going to donk.
There,
There's
yeah.
Nest Ball. Okay, so there's no donk going to happen here. And he does only run the 1 copy of the Hoopa, so he's going to have to put down. He's a Snorlax he can opt to put down.
Although the great thing for Sean that can apply even more pressure on Rahul is that there are 3 different things that Sean can force Rahul to have to play around. Xurkitree, exactly. Xurkitree, in addition to Snorlax and Hoopa, is just another way you can frustrate your opponent. So with its ability, prevent all damage done to it by Pokemon with special energy attached to it. So that little Shaman up there, it's loaded. It is beefy with energy right now, but it's beefy with the wrong energy. And so Rahul's like, you know what? All my energy's gone. My basic energy is dead. So let's just go ahead and move on to game 2. So wise call by him. And I gotta say, for 2 slower decks that just try to apply pressure in different ways, that was pretty intense for a while.
It was really exciting to see when Sean was able to Plumeria in 1 turn, and then Verseeker do it again, and then Verseekers do it again. It was really exciting.
Yeah, okay. I love mill decks. I love disruption decks. So this is actually a lot of fun for me to watch. Not a lot of fun for you, I know.
I'm very into the game right now. Rahul did everything he could to pull himself out of that. There, he was able to get the DCs on the Shaman there and start attacking with the Shaman, but not knowing the Xurkitree GX tech there, this completely shot the deck right there.
Yeah.
There's nothing he could have done at that point to promote his game state.
But you know what's the interesting thing is that Rahul, assuming that he doesn't know this list at all, doesn't even know that Snorlax is waiting for him.
Yep.
Doesn't know that blocks are coming. So
It's a lot of walls to go through right now. He only got through the first ledge, and this got smacked again with circuitry again. I don't know what he can do. I'm trying to think in my head right now.
Man,
I mean, the Evergreen GX did help bring back all the energy there. Maybe hold off a little bit longer to pull that off. But, I mean, with all the energy denial, it's hard to even get the 4 energy.
yeah, and the main problem here is Rahul doesn't even run Guzma. So, well, yeah, he runs a couple copies of Guzma. I'm wrong there, but he is limited in what he can do in terms of how he can bring Pokemon the active. We're back to our action. We've got Wailord in the active position, which is probably good for Rahul.
It's really good for Rahul.
As opposed to Circuitry or Hoopa or anything
if he
like
could pull
that.
it off, I mean, get all the energy on the Celebi Venusaur here. We can take 3 prizes, but
and dude, I think I just saw him grab the double colorless energy, so it looks like Rahul is gonna maybe flirt with the idea of applying some early game pressure, even at the expense of losing a bunch of energy right away.
that's the crazy thing though, because unless that Circuitry's prize, he's really once the DC is attached there, he probably doesn't even hand hammer it. He just lets it sit there. And
yeah, it's gonna be just twiddling its thumbs, or well, Celebi's gonna be twiddling its thumbs because it actually has thumbs, I think. Venusaur, I don't
twiddling
think so.
his vines.
Something like that. Yeah.
Vine
Well,
whip.
both of them have vines.
Yeah.
So that's going on. Let's see what Sean's going to go ahead and get with this nest ball. And like we mentioned earlier, there are about 3 different ways that Sean can just brutalize Rahul with pressure right now. And so he's eyeing that Hoopa. Hoopa's probably the best of the 3 in just about any situation because, again, only thing that can really damage it or do anything to it at all is that Shaman.
You saw how much work that Rahul had to do also to get even to a point to attack that Hoopa as well. So might as well opt that strategy again because it made Rahul have to put so much pressure on himself there to attach the energy as quickly as possible. And once he committed those DCEs, it was a wrap, man. He got the circuitry down right after that and was able to take the game from there.
Although in hindsight, maybe one thing that Rahul could have done a bit differently that could still theoretically be an option this game is to really exploit Evergreen GX. So we cannot understate this. We can't overstate this enough. Like, being able to shuffle your whole discard pile into your deck is a big deal. And so that essentially gives you upwards to 100+ cards to work with in a matchup that's solely revolving around denying you of resources. So I'm seeing if there's any way that Sean and his list could infinitely loop his resources, and because remember Lusamine, that great supporter card from Crimson Invasion that lets you get back more supporter cards, is banned. Sean doesn't really have that anymore. So if Rahul timed his Evergreen GX at just the right moment, he could actually win on deck out. Now that's hard to do because you have to have a lot of energy to be able to pull it off, but it's at least an out.
Absolutely there. Yeah, Evergreen's got to be the ultimate plug here for Rahul here. And taking advantage of that Tropical Beach that Sean played there. Drop till you have 7 cards, and then your turn ends. A very powerful supporter stadium card, that very limited access to, unfortunately. This is what last print was, 2014? Maybe 2013?
Maybe so. And let's see what we got going down. More
looks like Rahul now waiting for the 3 cards to be picked. There just goes right into his turn. Knows that time is of the essence here in this matchup, and he needs to be able to take full advantage of it here to at least squeak out this game 2 win.
Yeah, and I see a couple openings for, depending on how Rahul goes about this, to be able to get the win in game 2, but it's really hard to imagine any scenario where someone could win a game 3. Where I think that Sean could just have an extensively lengthy game 2 that just doesn't end.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This game 2 can go the distance if Rahul does pull it off there. And at that point, both players are pretty much in the same type of mode. They're playing real defensive. He just takes up the Wailord and just goes straight into Hoopa. He does not want that Wailord to be subject to 3 prizes. Interesting enough there. I'm trying to see what that middle card is in between the grass energy. Is that double colorless, or is that the...
That looks like a
tool?
Special league tool, like a league promo tool. I think that might be a... choice band. I can't really tell.
Okay.
Look, just scrolling down the list, I think it might be. I mean, I definitely don't really... It's not Floatstone. So, yeah, it looks like that might just be a league promo choice band. And choice band won't make much
So
of a
Rahul right
difference
now,
in this matchup.
let's see, we do see a Verse Seeker here, and it looks like he's going through right now, and he has been spreading his energies around fairly thin. Looks like he plays Steven Resolve yet again. And I wonder if we can do a little count how many energies he have in his deck right now. I do see 2 grass. So it looks like only 2 basic grass left in deck there. And he has, what, 2 on the active Celebi Venusaur and 1 on the Shaman on bench there. The glare is a little bit hard to tell.
Yeah, and I think he just grabbed a few of them and are about to put them into his hand, which for Sean, it would be fantastic if he had just a copy of Team Skullgrunt he was sitting on, so he could...
Well, that's the cool thing right there. So instead of grabbing the grass energy in general, he actually grabbed the net ball instead to avoid that Team Skullgrunt play.
Let's see, and here comes down the Flare Grunt, and Sean's just going to go ahead and commit to the same strategy. I mean, for you guys who have been watching Pokemon stream matches for years, you already have a pretty good idea how this Wailord deck works. It wins in a very unique way, not drawing prizes really, not dealing damage, not even doing traditional fast deck out, just twiddling its... and I think in this case, Hoopa actually does have thumbs. It doesn't have vines, so it actually can twiddle its thumbs and wait, saying, okay, hit me for 30 or 40 or whatever, but I'm still just going to go ahead and win.
Team Flare Grunt Enhanced Hammer play yet again. This is... Actually, I'm not doing it. You might as well. I mean, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Rahul's pretty desperate to have to play down that double colorless energy because ideally you would want to go ahead and just put down your basic energy. That's just the safest way to set up your board. But again, half of Rahul's energy total are special energy cards, so Sean's having a field day. No pun intended.
Is that a Hue?
That is a Hue. Yes, that's right. And Hue supporter card from all the way back in the black and white block. Both players either discard until they have 5 left in their hand if they have more, or draw until they have 5. And that was actually a mainstay of Wailord decks when it first came out. It eventually dropped off in play, but now it seems like it's making a little bit of a comeback, and without a moment too soon, because, hey, that's taken away a lot of Rahul's most important resources.
Team Flare Grunt yet again.
And I think we might just get the double up play here. No, that's too good. Yeah, that's too good to be allowed.
All right, Shaman coming in, ramming again for another 30. I'm wondering if he has the max potion. I think he has the max potion in hand.
Yeah,
he does.
I would certainly hope so.
Here it comes, max potion. Gonna take all that effort away that Rahul has applied from the Shaman.
But before Sean commits to anything, he wants to have a good accounting of Rahul's remaining resources. He might be eyeing a greedy play here, not necessarily not avoiding this. Okay, and there goes the Xurkitree, so he was not really slow rolling, but just holding off on it to make sure that it was the right play because he doesn't want to be too vulnerable to the Celebi Venusaur GX swooping in.
Xurkitree doesn't allow any Pokemon with special energy to attack.
Oh, and I like the decision here to save that energy, bring it back to the bench.
There's not a lot of cards in Rahul's deck here, so I'm hoping he can pull off the Evergreen GX here soon to shuffle his discard back. Oh, he just scoops. Okay.
Yep, he just scoops, and that's that.
All right, so it looks like he was eyeing down that Scramble Switch, but it looks like it wasn't a prize cards. But still, very, very tough matchup from what we saw there between just a lot of energy just cards. And if that Celebi Venusaur GX or even any attackers were more of a limited energy cost requirement, it could have been a little bit of a different matchup there. But because it's so stout with that 3 energy here, 4 energy here, it's so hard to do that when your opponent's constantly milling them away.
Exactly. And, man, it seems like we've seen a lot of variety so far in just the past couple of rounds. Especially with these mill-out decks. The one thing that I did like, though, was that even with that, Rahul didn't give up. He had very limited resources, not a whole lot he could do with that, and just a single bad prize or two could be crippling when you were so reliant on having your energy the way that it is. But at the same time, he was playing to his outs, and that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, it's a very tough matchup there, and you want to try to make sure you do your best to leverage yourself to those auto losses just about there, and Evergreen GX a very powerful effect that he did take advantage of there, but with that stout energy cost, it's very tough to get through.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But we will take a second here. We're going to grab Sean here for an interview. We'll come back here and let's talk about Wailord a little bit when we come back.
See you in a bit.
So, we're still here. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more. Wailord.
Yeah.
It did work. And actually, I got a call for Wailord there for this weekend in comparison with all the Zork that did well and Night March did well last weekend there. So
I like to see it being played, to be honest, because with the metagame the way that it is, with what's being played in the format, it's a pretty big deal to have something that can simultaneously hang with Night March while beat Trevenant and do good against Zoroark as well.
Absolutely there. So with that now, Sean is here for his interview. We're going to go ahead and transition away. Be right back with you here shortly. And we are here with round 2 winner Sean Kelley, bringing in that spicy Wailord deck, bringing back the traditional list, or not really traditional list, but traditional avenue that was played in previous expanded formats here. So what kind of led you to play the Wailord deck this weekend?
So looking at Toronto results, Pikarom underperformed a lot. There's a lot of Trevenant. There was a good amount of Night March, Hitmonwab, and other miscellaneous fighting decks. A lot of these decks, they depend on they just attach 1 energy per turn. There's no acceleration. Trevenant, like, he does a little damage at a time. I can do without my items. So I figured if this trend continued, I'd probably do well with a stall style deck.
So a lot of unique different techs in your list we saw there. We saw you were able to bring up the Hoopa from Shining Legends, Circuitry GX, and there's also a Snorlax in there as well from Plasma Storm there. So talk about these different techs that made you want to come to that conclusion to play them.
Well, a lot of decks that can accelerate really quickly, those are my biggest problems. Like Pikarom, for example, they can just dig 3 energies out and put them on. Like, I can't keep up with that. So something like Snorlax is a little cheeky way for me. If I don't have a bench and I stick something without energies, then they're not able to attack anymore. And that's the big reason for Snorlax. And the Hoopa, obviously, for a matchup like this, he's not playing Silent Lab, so I can just sit there.
So how do you feel this deck is performing now with regards to the ban list recently? I know Lusamine was a big staple in the Wailord decks previously there as well. So how do you feel his deck is going to be functioning today without that perennial combo it used to pull?
Well, I'm not super worried. Before we played Lusamine, this deck did fine. So I figure a lot of people are saying that stall is dead. We don't have Lusamine. How are they supposed to recover resources? But we did it before Lusamine. We can do it without Lusamine. And now no one's expecting it because Lusamine's gone. So.
Awesome there. Well, congrats again on your round 2 victory here in Greensboro, North Carolina here. And we'll come back with you here shortly with some round 3 action.